if you're wondering why your business isn't growing as fast as you probably like it to, it's probably because you're not really focused. And today I'm going to be breaking down exactly what does focus actually mean and how can you become focused when there's so many different distractions you could be looking at. My name is Graham Singh. I'm the founder of GTM Academy. In my academy, we have a range of different entrepreneurs that we work with, that we help, to support, we coach. And in total, those entrepreneurs are doing around 2 million plus a year in revenue, which means that I'm very clued in on working with entrepreneurs at lots of different levels and even doing like 10, 20, 50K months and giving them the guidance that they need on how they can actually grow their business further. Okay, so today I'm going to be breaking down what focus actually means and why most entrepreneurs get it wrong. So first thing that I want to say is that I want to tell you a quick story that low-key, not broke my heart, but it made me a little bit upset, right? So I was speaking to a founder and we just went through like their vision of their business and what their goals were. And they're telling me how much it's important for them to be able to support their family. And they were telling me like, once they have enough money, one of the big things that they want to do is they want to give back. They want to provide for other people. And I was like, I completely relate to that. I really like this founder that I was speaking to. And as they were speaking about stuff, I was like, all right, I'm really glad that we spoke about this, but let's talk about the business. And I asked them one question and their response just left me feeling a little bit like gutted for them. And I was like, how are you missing this big thing? And the question that I asked them was basically, what's the one thing in your business that you're focused on actually fixing? And it sounds like such a simple question, right? Like it sounds like a simple question, but their answer just told me that they were just never really going to get very far. And the answer was, I've got like 4 or 5 different things that I'm trying to fix. And to me, I was just like, yeah, well, you're probably not going to fix any of them. I get it. Most businesses have got lots of different things going on. There's lots of different fires that you have to put out. But the truth is, when it comes down to it, there's not lots of different fires that you have to put out at the same time. There's just one. And I asked them as well. I said, okay, but out of all the different things, like what's the most important? And they're just like, all of them are really important. I was like, but you just can't fix all of them at the same time. And what happens is that if you don't have a clear priority of what you're trying to focus on, you probably won't actually fix it. Because one, if you've got 5, let's say you've got 5 different things that you're trying to fix. The first thing is you probably haven't defined what fixing all of these 5 things actually looks like. You probably think like, I need to do some work on that. I need to spend some time on that. I need to go research this thing. You've got like successes labeled as so differently within each of these different things. And then the other problem is that if you fix one of these things, these 4 might go away, or they might become bigger, or the order of doing the rest of the things might increase, or this one problem that you thought was going to be a small problem actually takes 6 months longer than it was meant to, and everything else that you had in terms of plans goes out the window. And that to me is like one of the big things that entrepreneurs do when they try to get started. They try to fix way too many problems at once. And it's hard. It's actually one of the hardest things to do, to be disciplined with your time when you're starting out. And I want to break down how I go about it. And hopefully you can apply this to your own business, because like I said, I was speaking with this founder, really, really nice guy, really good vision. And I was like, yeah, but what's the one thing? Like, what's the one thing? And no matter how much I was questioning him on it, he was just struggling to like come up with the words to tell me like, this is the most important thing. And I knew from that point, the likelihood that he would ever achieve where he wanted to be, the likelihood that he'd be able to provide for his family that we wanted to, the likelihood that he'd actually be able to like switch off at night was just so much lower. So the way that you figure out what your most important point of the business is, the biggest constraint of the business essentially, is firstly, you need to go and collect data, right? You need to go back and you need to say, okay, great. Like if you're looking at general business overall, you look at the marketing data, you look at the sales data, you look at the delivery data, so like LTV and things like that, and you look at the operations data, like does everything actually function, right? And you'll look at all the different data in all these different fields, and you'll think, okay, look, there's problems in here, problems in there, problems in there, problems in there. I get it, right? So your natural thing is like, I need to fix all of them, okay? But that's not true. Now, the analogy that I want to give you is, imagine you've got a river that's flowing. And in the river, there's these points where there's loads of like, the river is basically coming to like a bottleneck, and then it's opened up, and then it's bottleneck, and then it's opened up, right? Now, in the bottlenecks, right, people will look at the flow of the business and they'll say like, oh, well, there's a bottleneck here, there's a bottleneck there, there's a bottleneck there, and there's a bottleneck there. And they're like, okay, great, we've got loads of different bottlenecks. What should I do? And by looking at the flow of the river, right, what happens is a lot of people go and they find the thing that isn't even the bottleneck. It's not even the thing that's stopping the water coming through. And they'll be like, but this isn't good enough. Or I don't like where this is at. Or this is to a low standard. Or this is going to become a problem in 3 years' time. So I want to go and fix it now. And to me, like, there's a really difficult balance between thinking long term and thinking immediately. The truth is, if you're doing less than like 10k a month, you don't need to think about long term. Like, you just, truthfully, you just don't need to think about long term. You need to just think about, okay, what do I need to do today to get more money through the door, right? And sure, long term things are good, but if you're not making that much money, the likelihood that you're going to be able to sustain yourself in business is going to be much, much lower. So what I say is that if you imagine that flow going through your business, and you've got these different points where things are being bottlenecked, you want to find the bit that's bottlenecking the flow the most and open that up, right? And the truth is, it's actually easiest when you imagine this river. You go from the very front, yeah, like you go from the beginning of what's actually the constraint. So if you think about this in a normal process, you've got marketing, sales, delivery. That's it, okay? And you think, okay, great, like, I might have a constraint on my river. So imagine, let's say, just for number size, just to make it a little bit easier. You imagine you've got 100% flow initially coming in, but then your ads are really poor. So that constrains the flow to 10%, right? And then your sales are actually quite good, and you've got like 30% of the flows going through sales. So okay, great. Like, but what happens is that some people, because they like sales, they'll be like, oh, well, I want to get this to 50%. I want to get this to 100%. I want to open this bit up. Okay, or because they don't like marketing and they don't understand it, they'll go like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I've got as much capacity as possible within my business, because that's the thing that I think I can actually solve. But when it comes down to it, it's not actually the constraint of the business. And as a result, you end up spending so much time doing things that don't actually matter, and you don't spend the time fixing the one problem in your business that if you solved it, everything else would get better. So for us, our main problem, and like, I love being able to communicate this with you because it shows that we are who we say we are. And you can go to Adnan, you can go to our board, and you can even go to clients that I speak to about our business and what we're doing. The main thing that we're actually doing to grow our business today, the number one goal that we have, that we look at every single Monday morning, we spend an hour or two actually going through what we're doing to achieve this goal. We look at that goal at the end of each week to see how we're doing. We look at it at the end of day to see like, okay, great, are we making progress to this? The one goal that we have is getting more qualified sales calls through our ads. That's it. If we can get qualified sales calls through our ads, our business will grow exponentially. Now, of course, there's other things. There's delivery issues that come up. There's sales things that we could improve. There's different models that we could use. There's AI things that we're thinking about. All these different things absolutely come up, but we choose not to prioritize them because we know that if we can just get more flow through the business from the ad side of things, so we can start getting booked calls in, like, that's it. We can grow the business much, much faster. And then once that's gone, then we can focus about the other things. Yeah, then we can look at the other stuff. But most entrepreneurs don't have the discipline, right? They don't have the discipline to actually be able to say, okay, well, actually, not only discipline, they don't have the data to tell them, like, this is actually the constraint of the business. So because they don't have the data, they then get distracted and they start thinking about all the different things that they can do. And then they never actually fix the business. They make lots of different bits of it nice, but never actually fixing the business. So it sounds like I'm like almost rambling on about this topic, but the reason why you have to go into so much depth, and the reason why I'm reiterating this, even though I've spoke about this on other videos in the past, the reason why I'm reiterating this is because it's such an important lesson for me. It's like literally the biggest thing that you can do. And when I was speaking to that entrepreneur, when he was telling me that he doesn't know what the constraint is, he doesn't know which one thing that he needs to do, immediately I was like, look, you're gonna struggle for months on end, and you're gonna wonder why you didn't move faster. And this is exactly why. I'm giving you the exact reason why, and I'm telling you exactly what to do. Go and get the data and go and figure out where your business is being constrained the most. Okay? And ideally start from the front of the business. The reason why we start at the front of the business is because, let's say, out of 1,000 people that see your business, 100 people might click on it. Out of those 100 people, 10 might sign up to something. Out of those 10, 5 might book on a sales call and buy. And then out of those 5, like 2 might leave within the first month. And it's like, okay, great. Like, we've got churn issues that we need to fix, all that kind of stuff later on in the business. The reason why I say start at the front of the business is because if you change that 1,000 to 2,000, that's actually arguably sometimes much easier to do compared to like changing it so that people stay with you for longer, right? So start at the front and it'll naturally increase volume, and by increasing volume, you'll also naturally increase reps. Yeah. If you've got someone that's like, you've got 1,000 people in and that's leading to like 10 sales calls, let's say, right? 1,000 people come into the business, they see it, some clicks, some book calls, whatever. 10 people actually get on, right? Now you could spend, the next 3 weeks trying to figure out how you're gonna make those sales calls absolutely amazing, or you can just do those 10 sales calls, or you can just do 20 sales calls, double the amount of volume that comes in, learn from those sales calls what works and what doesn't work. And because you've got more data points, it's actually easier for you to improve things often. Most people get stuck in the theory of just like, how could I potentially make this better? And it's like, you just don't need theory. You just need to be open-minded, and you actually just need to get more reps in. And the way that you get more reps in is by front loading the start of the business rather than trying to tweak things on the back end that really just don't get tested as much to even see if those tests are even valid, right? So this is the way that I think about things. This is the way that I want you guys to think about your business if you want to grow it. And hopefully this gives you some clarity of how you should go about scaling your business, right? Like, it's such a high level skill. It's something that so many entrepreneurs get wrong that I feel the need to talk about it more and more. And the entrepreneur that I mentioned previously as well, like, he knows that this is the way that I grow businesses. He's aware of it. He just wasn't applying it to himself. He wasn't thinking this is important for me. And as a result, like he just wasn't going to get that far. So I strongly advise that when you're thinking about your business, you figure out what is the most important thing. Yeah, and the most important thing might take 6 months to fix. It might take a year to fix. And that's okay, because you're in business for the long haul. You can't just be in business for the short term because things aren't going to work out. Trust me, because if you're in business for the short term, then you're going to try and like scramble between lots of different things. You're going to try and make something work. And by trying to make something work, you're not going to make the thing that's actually the most important thing work. Okay? So this is my advice. These are my thoughts. Like, this isn't as structured as it usually is, but this is just what's on my mind at the moment. And I know that if you're listening to this right now, you'll get a lot of value from this, and it'll change the way that you actually run the business. So figure out what is the most important thing that would allow me to 10x the business, and put all your time and effort into fixing that thing. Yeah, you might need to have 10% of buffer time to fix other little issues here and there. Fine. But most of your time should be focused on the one thing that you know is going to grow your business, rather than trying lots of different things and hoping that something sticks.